Welcome to this explainer on the public humiliation counter-trap. Today, we're unpacking some seriously intense psychological power dynamics straight from our source material. We're going to break down the exact mechanics of a social ambush. You know the ones, the incredibly high stakes, the sudden attack, that incredibly tense public setting. By the time we're done here, you're going to understand exactly how to survive and actually reverse an attack on your dignity in those dark, high-pressure boardroom moments. All right, let's get into it. Now, picture this. You're sitting in a crowded, modern office meeting room. It's got this dark, almost claustrophobic, cinematic feel to it, right? You literally feel like you're under a single sharp spotlight with dozens of faceless shadows just staring straight at you. And then, bam, it happens. A sudden, glass-shattering moment. Someone hurls a sharp, very public insult right at you out of absolutely nowhere, and they've got this calculated smirk on their face. The piece of the room is just instantly destroyed. But what if you could turn their own weapon right back against them? What if you actually had the tools to completely flip that power dynamic on its head? Because look, the reality of this trap is totally primal. A sudden insult lands and boom, every single eye in that dark room shifts right to your face. They're all watching for that tiny micro-expression of weakness. Your heart starts hammering with this really heavy rhythmic beat. Essentially, a social predator just tried to use the audience to strip away your dignity. They are literally banking on your biological panic. They want that spotlight on you, and they're waiting for you to crack under the intense pressure of that collective stare. So, what happens when that heavy heartbeat kicks in? Well, most people just panic. They freeze up, or they kind of visibly shrink in defeat, basically letting the claustrophobic shadows of the room just close right in on them. But there's an alternative: the calculated counterattack. Now, this takes an intense, authoritative mindset. You have to step out of the role of prey, square your shoulders, and decide, in a fraction of a second, to turn their weapon against them. So how exactly do we do this? Let's break it down. Okay, Phase 1, the biological override. Subtitle, Mastering the 2-second power pause. Your very first move here isn't even verbal at all. It's completely biological. 2, that is the magic number. The absolute instant that insult lands, you execute a 2-second pause. I want you to imagine a faint neon countdown timer glowing right in your field of vision, ticking down from 2 to 1 to 0. In that window, you create total, incredibly tense silence. And that silence, it absolutely forces everyone to stop and just hang on the moment. Now, the actual mechanics here are absolutely crucial. Don't blink, fast, do not gasp. You literally have to freeze your face into a perfectly calm, completely expressionless, neutral mask. Maintain sharp, highly focused eye contact with your attacker, and just count to 2 in your head. That eerie, deeply calculated silence shifts all of that intense discomfort entirely off of you. You're basically refusing to accept the burden of their insult, and by doing absolutely nothing for 2 seconds, you drop that heavy discomfort straight back into their lap. Moving on to Phase 2, tactical deconstruction, or as I like to call it, the explain the joke shield. So we pull this one out when the insult comes hiding behind a smirk or a fake joke. Analytical deconstruction is all about forcing the attacker to dissect their own malice out loud. You just look at them with this mild, polite confusion, and as you do, you'll see the attacker's smug smirk slowly fade. Their eyes might start darting around nervously because their hidden trap has been shattered. They're left completely exposed in front of the exact same audience they just tried to use against you. I don't get it. Can you explain why that's funny? You have to deliver this with cold, totally calculated calm. You aren't being defensive here. You're just politely confused. It's brilliant because it completely neutralizes their weapon. Suddenly, the room is filled with this heavy, awkward silence, and the attacker is forced into a corner. They either have to admit out loud that they were being intentionally cruel, or they have to backtrack entirely. All right, Phase 3, strategic exposure, weaponizing your own failures. Now, this scenario plays out a lot like an intense game of chess. Let's say an attacker tries to dig into your past and weaponize a mistake you made. Your countermove? Extreme transparency. This means completely 100% owning a past failure rather than trying to deny it or hide it. Look, if you hide from a failure, you're literally handing the predator leverage, but if you drag it out into the bright light, you instantly destroy their entire strategy. It's kind of like a chess player confidently knocking over their own king, only to reveal this incredibly powerful hidden queen right underneath it. You're sacrificing a tiny piece of your ego to completely dominate the board. So when they bring up that failure, You look at them with totally unwavering, unblinking confidence, and you drop this. Yes, I failed that project. It taught me the exact lessons that built the systems I use today. Why do you ask? It's just a heavy thud on the table, right? You own the narrative completely. You take their perceived weakness and forge it into undeniable proof of your resilience. And that little question tacked on to the end, why do you ask? Man, that puts the spotlight right back onto their malicious intent. I really, really want this core philosophy to sink in for a second. You cannot humiliate someone who has nothing to hide. It's just a fact. If you own your entire story, the good, the bad, all of it, the social predator is left with absolutely zero ammunition. Extreme transparency is literally the ultimate armor when you're navigating a toxic, chaotic environment. Which brings us to phase 4, the calm exit, establishing boundaries and walking away. This final maneuver is specifically for those times when an attacker is really leaning on a condescending tone to try and get to you. Your response? Total, icy detachment. You just say calmly, "You seem frustrated, let's talk when you're calmer." Boom. You've just stated a firm, undeniable boundary. Then you turn your back on the dark, chaotic background of that boardroom and you walk down a bright, clean corridor without even looking back. You're literally shutting the door on their toxic behavior. So, when we put it all together, this builds into a seriously complete tactical arsenal. Step 1, the 2-second power pause to biologically override your panic. Step 2, analytical deconstruction to completely shatter their jokes. Step 3, extreme transparency to weaponize your own failures. And finally, step 4, the calm exit. This right here is your calculated step-by-step guide to surviving and honestly dominating toxic psychological power dynamics. To wrap this explainer up, I want to leave you with one final incredibly provocative thought. The source material makes this absolutely clear. Public humiliation is never actually a reflection of your worth. It's always a glaring sign of their own insecurity. So as you walk away and just let them sit there with that insecurity, ask yourself, who truly holds the power in the room? Thanks for exploring this fascinating dynamic with us today. Keep these tactics in your back pocket and never, ever let someone else dictate your worth.